finding out just what education is. Reading this lecture in the late 1940s, Philip W. Jackson took Dewey's chart to heart and spent the next 60 years contemplating his words. The stimulating result of a lifetime of thinking about educating. What is education? It's a profound philosophical exploration of how we transmit knowledge in human society and how we think about accomplishing that vital task. Good evening, students of CA Sri Lanka, ladies and gentlemen. First of all are warmly welcome for the first webinar series which is conducted by CA Sri Lanka. This will be written in gold in the legends of CA Sri Lanka. We have turned a new page using new technology to assist our students passing other historical pages. First of all, it's my duty to remind three key personnels. Mr. Arun Alvis, CEO and Secretary. Under his heading of the Institute, the guidance and close supervision, we were able to achieve our goals. As well as the leadership of the President, Mr. Sujiva Rajapaksa, and the Vice President, Mr. Arjuna Herath, we managed to bring substantial value addition to our examination system. Before moving to normal proceedings, I would like to invite important person to deliver his speech about the objectives of this program. We would like to convey our heartiest gratitude for initiating this project. He always speaks about three key areas as enhancing governance, improving transparency, ensuring sustainability. Dear Mr. Jagat Perera, Chairman Examination Committee, this is your moment to express your views.
Good evening. Today we are going into a different chapter in CS Sri Lanka. While you are sitting over here, we are going to telecast the same thing through webinar to all the students, and not only that, after this we will upload this to the CS Sri Lanka website. So all the students who are sitting for auditing, SFM and BSKM can see these seminars in the next 3 days, and that will be a major change onto their knowledge base, because earlier we were conducting seminar, but only people who participated for the seminar is getting the advantage of that lecture series. But presently our plan is to give this knowledge, share this knowledge with all the students who are getting ready for the exams. And not only that, there is a plan by end of this month or maybe early next month, I am not sure exact date they will announce, we will have the mock exam for 4 papers, and then plan is to give the results of those answers after marking by the examiners to the students who are sitting for those exams. And these changes are done thinking that we can improve the quality of our students, improve the pass rates of our students in the exams. The institute is always trying to see whether we could pass all the students who are facing the exams with reasonable knowledge. And there is no cut-off marks for exams, but students invariably thinking that we are restricting the pass rates. There is nothing like that. The important point is, if you answer for the questions rightly, the examiners will definitely take the right decision. So we were trying to do the improvement on the transparency on these examinations. Basically, last couple of exams, we managed to release the results very fast. We are sharing our own answer with the students now, so that the answer what is being used for marking the question papers are the ones that is going to be being distributed to the students who can read it, understand it, and get ready for the next exams. In addition to that, there are few changes we have done in the examination process, especially after introducing the examination taxonomy. We should be able to now minimize and almost zeroize the ambiguities in the questions, so that expectation of the examiner, the student, and the lecturer, all three will have the same understanding, because we are already defined and given our definition for those action verbs that is being tested in the exams. Likewise, we managed to bring lot of changes within the examination process. Not only that, from last exam, even we managed to conduct the exams in kata, so that the students who are working outside Sri Lanka also can sit for the exams who are in the Middle East. Maybe if the demand is high on any other place, we should be able to conduct the exams outside Sri Lanka, so that you don't need to come all the way to Colombo for sitting the exams. All these are done for one purpose. We need to enhance the knowledge of our students. We need to bring everyone into the right platform to face for the exams. And today we will start with auditing, and we will continue the other two subjects tomorrow and day after. Please inform to your friends. If they are not participated for this, they can go to the web and see these sessions, and this will be very useful for you to get ready for the exams. In addition to that, I think in case of strategic financial management, we have uploaded some of the articles for students to read before the exam, so that they can enhance their knowledge before the exams. I'm not going to take too much of time, because your objective is today to listen to the lecturer. And if you have any questions, you can discuss with him. Of course, the examiners are not available here. Therefore, exam related questions, you may not get any answer. But if you have any questions, you can pass on. We will see how best we could address those issues in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pereira. I would like to invite examination consultant Mr. Dayananda Vijaysekar to deliver a word of thanks.
Dear students, I thank Mr. Jagat Pereira, Chairman Examination Committee, for the introduction and explanation of this objective of the webinar today, and with the new features added to the examination system and the process. Thank you very much. And now I am going to introduce you the most important person today for the advanced auditing and assurance presentation. And this webinar series will be started from this subject. Mr. Sanjay Bandara is with us today for the first presentation. Mr. Sanjay Bandara holds FCA, MBA from Colombo University, BSc Accountancy Special, and he is a partner of BRD Silla and Company, and he is a lecturer, University of Sri Lanka. and he expert in FRS implementation. In all above this, he is a council member of CS Sri Lanka. So I invite Mr. Sanjay Bandara to start webinar presentation today. Thank you.
Good evening to all of you. My presentation I have structured in such a manner that I'll first take you all through basically so what we think why the performance of this particular paper is sort of not up to the standard. So what we think probably, so we might be wrong, but so we'll discuss. And then what are the key areas of Sri Lanka auditing standards and other technical pronouncements that you all should focus on this examination. And then what are the key financial reporting issues that you all should be aware of, because if you all so go to the last few examination papers, you all may have noted that in the first question, the examiner has tested the application of almost 8 to 10 accounting standards. So therefore, generally, you all should be aware of, what are the accounting standards or the accounting issues. You all should be focusing on your studies. It's not going to be only on auditing standards. And then how to use the open book concept. I mean, as you all know now, this auditing and financial reporting frameworks, those two papers are conducted in open book system where you all might take it, and we have seen that certain students take it as sort of a alternative to studies, so they have the view that so when the book is there you need not study as such, so can use the books in the examination as and when it is necessary type of some mentality is there with some of the students, but that might not be correct. So we'll discuss on that, and then the current topics you all should be focusing on. So because nowadays all these the issues that are happening in the local context as well as the international context will have some impact on the financial statement of the most of the business organizations. Therefore, what are those the current issues you all should be focusing on, especially in the examination context? So we'll discuss at the end of this particular session. So therefore, those are the mainly 4 areas I'll be focusing on in my presentation. And then once the presentation is over, so you all maybe, if you all need any clarifications, you all, or if you all need any explanation on what I explained here, so we can discuss. Okay, having said that, so I'll start with why the first topic. So why, so we have seen poor performance in this particular paper. So in the last, especially the last few examinations, but we have seen that certain improvements happening during the last few examinations when we compare to with the examination that happened 2 years or the 3 years before. There is a significant improvement, but still, so that is not up to the expectation. Okay, so we'll see why. If you also go through the auditing paper, generally, so there have been 5 questions, right? Generally, 5 questions had been there, where the first question is on basically scenario-based question, where so almost about 10 to 12 auditing standards have been, accounting standards have been tested, right? Second question is audit type of a question on audit evidence, and third is on say the code of ethics, fourth is on the practice management, and the fifth question is the other topics in the sense the latest developments happening in business environments, and then the application of the application of review engagement, related services, summarized financial statements. Basically, those are the areas covered in the last question. I'm just have done this sort of an analysis based on the last few papers. right? That might be wrong. I mean, this might not be the scenario sometime back, so this analysis is based on the last 3 papers. Okay, so when you go through the first question, so we have seen that examiner has been always giving you all a case or a scenario, and where the application of almost about, the 8 to 10 accounting standards have been tested. So what, the marking examiners have been always emphasizing or telling us is that, okay, the students were not aware of, or the students are not aware of some of these accounting standards that they should be aware of. For example, last examination, the first question is, say, the IFRS, the first time adoption accounting standard. Right? I mean, the scenario was given, the students were required to sort of answer that particular question, taking into consideration the provisions of the first time adoption accounting standard. But so ultimately, the examiners have communicated us the fact that, the marking examiners have communicated the fact that, the most of the students have not answered that particular question. I mean, majority have answered, but not in the right context. So what they were telling is, okay, so the students are not aware of the accounting standard or the first time adoption accounting standard. That was a simple reason. So why they have not answered the particular question properly. So therefore, remember in the first questions. Now, when you all go home, so take the last few examinations papers and go to the first question, you all can clearly identify this one. So the last paper, the first question, first time adoption standard is heavily tested. Because the last examination, even the current examination, examiner might test you all, test the particular standard. Because that, the first time adoption standard is applicable only for the financial statements prepared for the year end 31st March 2013 only, or 31st December 2013 only. There was examiners probably will test that only can test only maybe 1 or 2 examinations, because 31st March 2014 or 31st December 2013, that standard might not be appropriate for the most of the organizations, since that has been already applied in preparing 31st March 2013 financial statement. Therefore, the students would have reasonably expected that examiner to test that particular standard also, right? The application of that particular standard also in this particular paper. But it was tested, but the majority has not sort of understood. It appears that they have not understood the particular standard. So therefore, you all should ensure that at least the main accounting standards that are regularly used by the accountants in preparing and presenting the financial statement. So you all should be you all should be knowledgeable. So you all should have proper understanding or a good understanding on those. For example, in today's context, there are financial reporting standards. On financial instruments, there are 3 financial instrument standard, LKS 39, so the standard on the recognition, measurement, presentation and all that. There are 3 accounting standards, especially the LKS 39. Right. So take some time, right? There are plenty of other, the documents available now, right, in the library, and even you all can get them from the technical division of the institute. Take some efforts and study them and update your knowledge on all these accounting standards. So some other areas like, the fair value of assets. Fair value of assets is, is another concern because of there again IFRS implementation. Is another topic heavily discussed in the today's context. Say the deemed cost concept, right, and the valuation of lease assets, right. So biological assets. So like us, those are some of the key areas heavily discussed in today's context by the accountants in preparing and presenting the financial statements. Therefore, so be aware of the common issues. And then the recognition of intangible assets. So what are the conditions that need to be satisfied to recognize an intangible asset instead of financial statements? And then the impairment, especially because of there again the financial instrument standards. So now the financial reporting standards, the financial instrument standard goes on to tell us that, say those days the debtors and the receivables and the inventories, we have been making provisions. But not the case now. So you have to test them for impairment. Loans and receivables or the trade receivables, right, will have to be tested for impairment. So certain financial instruments or the financial assets, need to be subsequently measured at amortized cost. So therefore, so the you should be aware of, how to measure. For example, all these financial assets. If financial asset need to be measured at amortized cost, how to measure it? How to test loans and receivables for impairment? How to test, for example, trade receivables for impairment? Right. So likewise, please ensure that so these are the topics of the important in today's context. And then finally, there again the recognition and measurement of financial instruments. So therefore, those are some of the common accounting issues or the accounting standards so that need to be discussed, or so you all should be aware of. So therefore, ensure that basically, so you all are aware of these standards. That has been, we have identified, this is one of the main issue why the pass rate in this particular paper is fairly low. And the second one is, one of the other comment we have got is, so lack of conceptual clarity and the students not well equipped with application of basic knowledge. So they are what especially the marking examiners have been telling us is, say the identification of the things like identification of assertions affected by risk, and the use of general controls and application controls of IT environment. The students don't know especially right to apply this in compiling a proper answer. So, for example, the first one, identification of assertions affected by risk. Especially in the risk assessment, so you'll have to consider what are the assertions affected by the particular risk. For example, whether it be existence or the occurrence or the completeness. So the risk assessment, you have to identify the particular assertion. Then only you can come up with the right audit procedure or the right audit evidence to collect, to address the particular issue. So if it is occurrence, okay, you can consider, so what is audit evidence you got to collect to address the particular issue. So if the particular, the assertion connected with that is occurrence, then you can identify what is the audit evidence you got to collect in support of the particular one. So therefore, please ensure that, so all these, the basics, like, the identification of assertions affected by risk, and then the use of the application controls and general controls, you all do some studies. You'll do some studies and apply them specially in compiling whatever the answers you all compile. Maybe the question number 1, maybe the question number 2, because those are basically on those areas, collecting audit evidence and all that. So therefore, see whether you all are familiarized with those. And then to the one other reason why we have seen, right? The pass rate is low, so not fully understanding the question itself. We have seen that as most of the students, they have not understood the question being asked. So therefore, they have written, so then and there, here and there, the different things. But there's no flow in the answers being written. So it appears that most of the simple reason being, most of the students have not understood the question. If you don't understand the question, you can't compile the correct answer. So therefore, before you all compile the correct answer, please ensure that you all read at least once or twice the particular question and understand the question. So if you all understand the question, then you all can come up with, or you all can compile the right answer. In the right answer, there should be right flow. In most of the cases, what happens is you write something, and then thereafter in the second paragraph you write something else, completely disconnect with which was written in the first paragraph. In the third paragraph, something else. And in certain occasions, the too much general answers have been written. Okay, for example, the students have written, say, you have to check the compliance with the accounting standards. You have to check whether the accounting is in compliance with the accounting standards. You have to check whether whether this is in compliance with the Companies Act. So likewise, so that type of a statement can be made by anybody. So if you are giving any specific reference, okay, you have to give the reference to the particular standard, particular provision, or the particular section and all that. So then only it can be considered as a sort of the valid or the complete answer. For example, if you all say that, okay, so we have to consider the financial, okay, you have to see whether the accounting of this particular transaction is in compliance with the financial reporting standard, that doesn't make any sense. If you all say that, okay, the financial reporting standard, so goes on to tell us that, the held to maturity investments need to be measured at the initial measurement at fair value. After this particular transaction is fair value with this. So, but they have accounted at this particular price. So, therefore, this is in not compliance with the financial, say the financial instrument standard. So as a result, the balance shown in the financial statement, or this particular, the asset shown in the financial statement is overstated, or the profit or the loss shown in the financial statement understated, overstated. So when you all present it like that, so we can see that you all have applied the particular accounting standard in compiling your answer. Then it's not a general answer. It's a specific answer written giving due reference to the relevant provision of the particular standard. So that is the type of answer the examiners are expecting. So which shows that you all have a thorough knowledge on the application of the particular standard or the particular provision of the particular standard. So not that, so they will sort of, the examiners might offer you all the general answers of the particular nature which I explained you all. So therefore, so even during the Mr. Better explained you all that, so there will be a sort of the mock exam that will happen. So please take that opportunity and sit for the mock exam and see whether you all can get the desired marks. So there you all will get some hands-on experience. Because the issue we have seen, so when we speak to the students, what they have been telling us, okay, so they don't have time to write the answers as such, So probably you all might attend in lectures, tuition classes and all that. So where the examiners, the lecturers might discuss a lot of past papers and the model paper, where you all are not compiling, you all are not writing the answers. So therefore you all get the hands-on experiencing of writing an answer. Because then you all might type of difficulty, problems you all will encounter while compiling the answer. So therefore, one other issue what we have seen is, okay, so you all need lot of hands-on experience in writing. Maybe the same question paper, right? Maybe the previous examination. Now, so you all may have already discussed the previous year question paper a couple of times with your own lecturers or with your own colleagues and all that. Now, take an opportunity and see whether, so take maybe weekend or a weekday evening. So just see whether you all can compile a proper answer for this, the last paper. And then, so take the institute has published the model answer, published, right? Yeah, so we have published the final answer. Institute has already published the answer of the last paper. So therefore what you all can do is, you all can see, you all can take the paper and see whether you all can answer it within 3 hours, and then take the model answer published by the institute and see. You all can compare it and see whether you all have achieved the desired marks of 50. Right? Now 50 is not good enough, for example, right? If you all do it at home, right, even though you all do it within 3 hours, so if you all do it at home, probably, so you all might require now, if you all do it now, because you all may have already discussed the paper with your own colleagues and all that, and the tuition colleges and all that. So therefore, at least if you will do it now, that takes 70 marks. And then maybe within another month, do the same paper one more time. And see whether you all can get 80 marks. And maybe do it 3 times, and then see whether, by the time you all do 3rd time, whether you can take 100 marks out of, 100 out of 100. Or a 90 out of 100. So then you all know, you all have a comfort, you all know that. So the paper of a same standard or the same, the quality can be answered, so within a reasonable period of time. So where you all can exceed the pass marks required, you all can get the pass mark required, right? So therefore, please ensure that you all take this opportunity of, the mock exam or whatever the institute is going to organize. Are we going to organize here, Mr. Anand, the mock exam? Are you going to have it here or okay? Okay, so they will inform you all. So that are we going to have a separate session there again once the examination is, but will be marking the answer script and will be sending their marks, right? Yeah, so that opportunity is also will also be available for you all. Right. So now once you all sit for the mock examination, then the institute, the same marking examiners who will be marking the papers will mark the papers, so your mock exam papers, and then will give you all the results. So that if you all get 20 marks for the mock exam or 30 marks for the mock exam, then you all know that you all are nowhere. And the fact that you all need to study more. Right. So therefore it will give you all the indication about your strength and your weaknesses and areas that require improvement and the difficulties you all will encounter. So when you all write or compile an answer for the examination paper. For example, the student who won the auditing prize not the last examination before, he was telling that, there again, so we had a mock paper. So he was telling that only in the mock examination, he realized that, he was nowhere. He was telling that, okay, so when I came to the mock examinations, so he could not, so do anything. So he tried to answer a couple of questions, but could not, he was telling. And then he realized that, okay, this is not going to work. I should study, these are the experience I'll be experiencing. These are the difficulties I'll be experiencing in the examination. So therefore, these are the areas where I should study and I should focus on. They was telling, okay, so then, I started studying with a proper focus. And then that was really helpful for me to, or he was telling that, for him to take that prize for the auditing subject, final auditing paper after so many years. I think after almost 20 years, only that the prize was offered by the institute. So I was telling that experience really helped him. So therefore, right, because ultimately you all may be having a very good knowledge in accounting standard, you all may be having a very good knowledge in auditing standard, you all may be having a very good knowledge in, all these ethics and etc, etc. But ultimately, if you can't put it right into the whatever the answer script, because the examiner can't read your mind, no, examiner can basically mark what is being written in this particular paper or whatever the answer booklet. So therefore, this hands-on experience is really required, right? So what we are suggesting is, okay, so take the at least last 2 or 3 papers and then, the compile or write the answers and then make a comparison of this one and see whether where you are. Right, so especially in this particular context, for you all to organize a proper answer. So then, once the answer is written, you all can compare, how you all have written answer along with the answer written in the booklet or whatever the suggested answer published by the institute. Suggested answer published by the institute is not the abacus, it's the real answer. I mean, the official answer published by the institute. Right? Official answer is been published, so therefore you all can compare your one with the official answer. So therefore you all can identify the gaps. You all can identify the style examiner, basically is answering for the questions. Right? So therefore that will really help you all. So this is how I have answered. This is how examiner has answered. So when you compare a couple of the answers, right? So then you all will get there. Then you all can also slowly start practicing basically writing answers in the same manner the examiner has produced it. That will be really helpful for you all to focus on some systematic manner and come up with the right answer. Okay, those are the common reasons why we have, why we felt, right? Basically the pass rate is not up to the standard. So just to summarize, so we feel that the students are not, you all are not, you all in the sense students are generally not aware, they are not competent on basically the technical areas such as the technical areas required. The accounting standards, application of the accounting standards, and application of some of these auditing standards that really required, right? And then so they whenever they compile the answers, they just compile the general answers without giving due specific reference to the specific areas as such. So therefore, please ensure that you all, rectify all that. That will be really helpful for you all to understand. I will reiterate, stress the fact that, so your knowledge on accounting standard is really essential, especially to answer the first question being asked. I'm telling this based on my own analysis of the last 3 to 4 papers. Just go and if I'm, so if you just, want to see that, verify that one, go and see the last 3 papers and see how many accounting standards have been tested. The last year from the financial reporting, the financial instrument standards to the first time adoption standards to PP standard to leasing standards to many standards have been tested. Right? So therefore, please ensure that those are so you all are competent on, or you all do a proper study on all these areas. And then key areas students should focus on. Then I explain you all that I'll take you all on through on the key areas that we think that you all should be focusing on. The planning, right? So when it comes to planning is an important area. Planning is an important area, especially so in this particular context. So identifying risk of material misstatements and responding to such misstatements. Now this is an area which was basically tested in the question number 1 and question number 2. If you take the question number 1 and question number 2, so always examiner says identify the risk of material misstatements. And then, develop the draft the audit procedures required to address a particular risk identified. So therefore, now there's a separate area, so you all know under planning, so identifying the risk of material misstatement. How we are going to address the risk of, material misstatement in a given set of financial statements? What are the technique available? How are we going to do that? Right, whether it be analytical procedures or the inquiries or the observations or the test of controls. The standard talks about many procedures that could be used to identify the risk of material misstatement. So therefore, you all should be aware, you all should have a proper understanding in a given circumstances, what is the most appropriate technique to be used to identify the risk of material misstatements. Because that, might change from, circumstances to circumstance, or scenario, the situation to situation. For example, in one question, the examiner might have given you all one story, so relating to manufacturing organization. In another scenario, examiner might have given you all a scenario relating to service sector organization. So if that is the case, how you all should assess the risk or identify the risk of material misstatement is different to maybe the scenario 1 to the scenario 2. So given the context is different, organizations or the type of business is different, type of organizations are different, type of operations might be different. So therefore, depending on all that, the technique you got to use to identify the risk of material misstatement is different. And then what I was earlier telling that, okay, you have to identify, if once those are identified, you have to identify the relevant financial statement assertion connected with that one. Because that is where most of the students, there again, are very weak where. So once you identify the relevant risk, you all don't identify the required, the financial statement assertion connected with that one. If you all don't identify the financial statement assertion connected with that one, you all might not be in a position to offer the right audit procedures to be performed, or to tell us what is the most appropriate audit evidence to collect to support the particular issue you all have identified or particular risk you all talk about. So therefore, ensure that so all these techniques are stipulated in detail in the auditing standards. So they go through them and then identify the relevant financial statement assertions with them, and then decide what are the audit procedures and the audit evidence you all could collect in support of all that. And then the group audit planning. So group audit planning is in today's context is very important. For example, you might be an auditor of the parent, and there may be certain other subsidiary. And subsidiaries might not be audited by you. If that is the case, how are we going to plan? It might be different from planning an isolated entity. So if you are planning an isolated entity, so you basically, you follow the standard procedure stipulated there in auditing standard. But so if you are having few subsidiaries where those subsidiaries are audited by somebody else, then the planning considerations need to be, the change to accommodate the new scenario, right? For example, you have to see what is out of the total, if you take the total, right? Total turnover, the total asset of the group, what is the percentage audited by your entity or your firm? What are the total these things audited by the other auditors? And then say how we are going to collect the sufficient appropriate audit evidence from the entities not audited by you. Right? How are you going to address that in the planning stage? So therefore the planning considerations need to be revised if you are having subsidiaries not audited by you. Even if the subsidiary is audited by you, certain changes are required. So therefore, when you are studying, right, just consider about the planning considerations when there's the group. And then the fraud risk and related parties. So there again, one other very important area in today's context, fraud risk. Especially the frauds relating to financial reporting. Now we all know these clarified auditing standards talk heavily about the fraud relating to financial reporting. And then the related parties. So therefore these are the two topics of very important in today's context. Because you all may have seen, the newspaper articles and the magazines where, so this particular area has been heavily discussed and debated. So therefore, so these are there again, so important areas. Just ensure that, so you all have a proper understanding on those. Then assessing control environment, entity level controls is there again relating to internal controls. I mean, it's not the difficult area is sort of the area even tested in the CAB level, assessing the control environment, entity level controls, so just have a look, right? And then IT risk and the controls. Earlier also I explained you all that we have seen that most of the students are not familiar with the IT risk and the controls, right? So general controls and application control, those are very basics, but it appears that so you all have not sort of having sufficient understanding on those. So therefore please ensure that so you all have some understanding on the especially IT risk. IT risk. First one is IT risk. When you're operating in an IT environment, so what are the additional risks you are exposed to, right? For example, when we discuss the internal controls and the control environment and all that, so we normally discuss the risk the particular business organization or the organizations are exposed to. But if you're operating in a IT environment, the risk exposure of your business organization, right, generally increase due to your being operating in a IT environment. Because there may be situation where somebody might take out your database, right? For example, say you have your database can be made use by somebody else for his own to improve or increase the turnover, the profitability of his own business. So therefore, example, data security is one of the other very important concern if you are working in an IT environment. And the second one is, when you design the IT system, if you have sort of made an error or a mistake, right, if you have not detected that, for example, so that you have to, when you develop or design the program, it has to give, for example, say cell 1, cell 3 is equal to cell 1 plus cell 2. But the programmer has given cell 3 is equal to cell 1 minus cell 2. If that is the case, if you did not detect that one, throughout the period, whatever the results generated by your ERP system or the financial system, right, or your financial statement might not be accurate. So therefore, if you are operating in an IT environment, the risk you are exposed to generally is higher. So therefore, you have to identify if you are operating in an IT environment, what are the additional risks you are exposed to, right? So therefore, please be mindful on that one as well. And then those are basically the considerations or the areas you all got to consider at planning stage. I mean under planning. And then evaluating audit evidence. If you take the evaluating audit evidence, the fundamentals of audit evidence, that is what is most reliable audit evidence in a particular circumstances. So especially, this might be really important for you all to answer the question number 1 and question number 2 both as well. So in a given scenario, what is the most relevant or the most applicable or the most reliable audit evidence? One other comments you all may have seen the examiners or the marking examiners have been giving, right? So the students are producing, certain answers where they say that, okay, collect this particular audit evidence, right? But that might not be the most relevant audit evidence to be collected in the particular circumstance. So therefore, when you all compile the answer, you all have to ensure that you all come up with the most relevant or the most appropriate audit evidence in the given circumstance. Because there may be, for example, in a given scenario, so there may be, so you may have stated, okay, so there may be, for example, the 10 audit evidence that could be collected in support of the particular transaction or the particular account balance shown in the financial statement, out of which one may be more relevant and more reliable, and rest of the other 9 audit evidence we are talking of might not be that much relevant and reliable. So therefore, if you all write, the rest of the 9 instead of the one most relevant and more reliable audit evidence, so for example, examiner might not be that much interested in offering you the full marks. Probably if 5 marks are allocated, examiner might offer you some marks, but not the full marks. We cannot come up with the most relevant or the reliable audit evidence in that particular scenario or in that particular context. So therefore, specially compiling the answers for the question number 2, right, evaluate and see what is the most relevant and reliable audit evidence for that particular circumstances. Or even the audit procedure. For example, the question number 1, it takes, okay, identify the risk and come up with the appropriate audit procedures. So when you compile or when you write down the audit procedures, come up with the most appropriate audit procedure. Because, for example, even if you take, for example, very simple example, right? So the verification of receivables, trade receivables. Now, so there are plenty of the procedures you can perform. So if you say, for example, the examiner want you all to, okay, you have identified trade receivables being a sort of a risk area, and you are going to the state or record the audit procedures to verify that one. You all start, okay, you all write, okay, do the analytical review, right? Or collect the invoices and review the invoices with the supporting documents. So those are the two. Assume that only 2 audit procedures you all have, the stated. But now earlier I was telling that, okay, so whenever an item is identified, you will have to identify what is the financial statement assertion connected with that one. Okay, one is, for example, the occurrence. One may be the existence. Right. So by going through by doing the analytical review and by going through the invoice of the invoice generator within your organization, you all will have to assess whether, so you all can verify the occurrence and existence of the trade receivable. Probably occurrence you all can verify, so by going through the invoice or the dispatch notes, then you all know that, okay, the transaction has actually happened, invoice is there, dispatch note is there, stock records have been updated. Right? But the existence, can you all verify by checking the dispatch notes and the invoice and the stock records? No, the occurrence, the existence, you all will not be able to, assess by going through all that document. So therefore, it's very important, once that particular item is identified, identify the assertion. Then, so develop the procedure to verify, address the particular issue connected with the assertion. So if you want to verify the existence, you have to either call for the confirmation or check the subsequent realization of the debt. So therefore, you have to write in that particular form, then the examiner knows that, okay, he knows the answer. So these are the 2 assertions connected with the particular issue. Now we have developed the 2 audit procedures to address that one. Right? So therefore, identify the most appropriate, reliable evidence in the particular circumstances. And the use of management representations. So there again, there are many instances where I use the management representations. To what extent you can rely on the management representations, right? And whether the management representations given, when the management representation given is not consistent with the other audit evidence you have obtained, what will you do? If the management refuses to provide the representation which is material, which is essential, so which you feel that, okay, essential and material to the financial statement, what will you do? Or how will you handle? Right. So therefore, the things of this particular nature, the practical scenarios, right? So generally is important, and the subsequent events, right? Subsequent events and the identifying and addressing going concern issue. Now, for example, especially in today's context, now this one, identifying and addressing going concern issues, right? So it's very important, this thing. Now you all know what happened to Fonterra, what happened to Anchor. What happened to this particular, the Ratu Paswal incident, one of the factories of the Haley's group. The examiner, was early explaining you all should be aware of the current, the topics. Now, what happened to, the milk powder companies like Fonterra and, some of the other companies and, one of the companies of Haley's group. So concerns, those entities now will have a concern about the going concern, right? So the going concern, for example, because the examiner can examine you all with, okay, so those with the going concern, or else the examiner can, test you all. So with, for example, the compliance with laws and regulations, other laws and regulations applicable to the entities. One is, okay, so you can talk about the giving a scenario like that, the examiner can test you all on the going concern of the particular entity. Right? One other scenario is, for example, examiner can test you all, okay, so whether the particular organization, and the giving some scenario, the compliance with the relevant laws and regulations applicable for that particular organizations or the organizations. Now you all may have seen that the incident. Now the Central Environmental Authority, whatever the environmental organizations were saying that, okay, they haven't got their license or they haven't got it renewed or something. So they were telling to say that, there's something, some non-compliance or type of a thing. We don't know whether that is correct, but so there were certain the paper articles on that one. So therefore, the things of that particular nature will have, the big impact on the existence of the particular business organization. For example, take that particular organization of the Haley's Group, the going concern, right? So when the subsidiary is having an issue, for example, even probably the parent company, we never know. I mean, even the particular entity and the other entities within the group also might have some impact. So therefore, the examiner might think like that, so and then test you all on that particular basis. So therefore, so specially consider the identifying, addressing the going concern issues connected with laws, plus compliance with laws and regulations, especially in the light of all these the external events that happened in Sri Lanka during last few months. And then the opening balances, the opening balances and the accounting estimates and the fair value estimates. Especially because of this IFRS financial instruments and the fair value measurement new fair value measurement standard is in place. So with that, some of the balances shown in the financial statements are measured at fair value. In audit in the fair value, so what are the special? What is the special? What are the areas where the auditor will have to pay special attention? Now, some of the balances previously were shown at cost. But now, so based on the new standard, some of these balances are shown at fair value, right? So maybe some of the cases, okay, the fair value may have been taken based on the, the future cash flows. So you have estimated the fair value based on the future cash flows. Therefore, what are the additional areas you all got to consider in auditing the fair value measurement, right? For example, available for sale financial assets. If you got to subsequent measurement, the fair value, so how are you going to decide the fair value? Examiner said, okay, it was decided, the fair value was determined based on the future cash flows. If that is the case, how are we going to audit the accuracy of the particular fair value determined by the management? So therefore, there are special areas you all got to consider in auditing the fair value, the measurements or the technique used in determining the fair value. So therefore, so that is another very important area you all should be basically focusing on the examination because of the changes in the new accounting standards. So this is a vital area. Especially the accountants are basically the experience some difficulties on this particular area. And then the use of management's expert, then SLUS 500 and auditors expert, the SLUS 620. Now the new standard, new clarified standards even talks about using the auditor's own expert. Now if the auditor is sort of, there may be certain circumstances where auditor might feel that the expert used by the management or the information or whatever the report given by the expert used by the auditor, the management, so might not be acceptable. If that is the case, the standard goes on to that, okay, so you go for your own expert and get some comfort on the numbers shown in the financial statement. What are the circumstances where the auditor need to go for auditor's own expert? Right? So basically, auditor should be, so you all should be aware of. And then that is about basically the evaluating the audit evidence, and then this particular area is also really important, but most of us forget this area. The conclusion, because once you plan and then you collect the audit evidence, you evaluate, then audit conclusions. Audit conclusions, remember, is very important in today's context, because at the end of the day, so what we are presenting to the client is maybe the auditor's report, right? Auditor's report or whatever our report, right? For that one to come up with the right report, so you have to arrive at the right conclusion based on the audit evidence you all have collected and all that. So therefore, in that context, the audit conclusion is really important, especially in this context. The auditor's report on the financial statements. So you all do study that one, the auditor's report on the financial statements, and then especially the modified audit opinion and the emphasis of matters and other matters. So impact on going concern issues on audit report. So especially remember the impact on going concern issues on audit report. So because of this particular issue reported there in Ratupassola and the milk powder cases, so the examiner, there may be possibility the examiner might test you all on, for example, the impact on going concern issue on the audit report. So there is an going concern issue. the business is not a going concern. The examiner might say that, okay, so the examiner might give you all some information, just for you all to evaluate and conclude whether the business is going concern or whether the business is not a going concern. So based on your conclusion, examiner might, the request you look at draft the appropriate audit opinion. If the business is a going concern, if you have concluded, okay, probably you all might conclude that, okay, so you all go ahead with the normal opinion. But if by any chance, if you have concluded that the business is not a going concern, then what is the most appropriate opinion, so you all got to express. And there again, the standard goes on to talk about, if the going concern concept is not appropriate, and whether the organizations is having some mitigating factors. Okay, at the moment going concern is not appropriate, but are there some mitigating factors, right? So if the management might produce, for example, what about at Fonterra, okay, they had an issue. But so now they have some mitigating factors to address the particular issue. So that is, if the management might produce some mitigating factors. For example, even the Ratupaswal incident. So they have this thing, okay, you all might feel that, okay, now this business is not a going concern. Because you are not in a position to start your business organization there. And then they might give you all a sort of mitigating factor, so where you can go and relocate your factory in Biagam. So then you have to evaluate and see whether, so you can go and relocate your factory in Biagam. So we saw that, some of the newspaper that, okay, so before, once the decision was taken to relocate there, the people living in that area also started protesting. So therefore, in that particular context, so if you are going to, you can relocate in Biagam or any other part of the country is sort of, the questionable. Unless otherwise they prove that, the water was not contaminated or whatever, due to the company's operation, so probably you might not be able to go and start it anywhere. So we never know, right? So therefore, the examiner might give you all a scenario like that, right? And get you all to conclude whether the business is going concern or not going. So if you're considered not a going concern, then they will say that, okay, so there are some additional, these are the mitigating factors, right? So they are providing you all for you all to assess and see whether the going concern. So for example, if the business is not going concern now, but if there are mitigating factors, you all can verify and you all agree. Okay? I mean, then, so what type of opinion you all are going to express? So if there's no mitigating factors, so then what type of audit opinion you are going to express? And you are going to come up with the, the right audit opinion. Okay? So need to be sort of addressed. And then the comparatives. Comparatives, and there again the conclusions. Okay, comparative shown in the financial statement. What is the auditor's responsibility pertaining to comparative financial statements? Assume that, okay, you all were not the auditors of the previous financial period. Okay, we are auditing the current financial period statements, and I was not the auditors of the previous financial period. Okay, what is your responsibilities in respect of the previous year numbers, so the opening balances, right? So and then the things like other information and documents containing in the audited financial statement. Now the business organizations compile annual report. So they produce annual report and publish the annual reports. The annual reports, in addition to the audited financial statements, you all know that the chairman's report, director's report, and so many other reports are there. So what is the auditor's responsibility towards those? So what are the factors auditor got to consider in respect of other documents contained in a document where the audited financial statement have been included. For example, the auditor will have to see whether the explanations given in the chairman's or the director's reports are consistent with the numbers shown in the financial statements, for example. So likewise, generally we have to be aware of, so the auditors, the duties and responsibilities for the other information contained in whatever the documents where audited financial statements are also included. So therefore remember, give due reference or the study in detail, the audit conclusions, right? Audit conclusions you all got to ultimately so do at the end of your audit. And then as far as the corporate governance is concerned, so you all know that corporate governance, this particular area is also heavily tested. So the impact of those charged with governance on audit. And the communications with, so those charged with governance, and the new Sri Lanka auditing standards on communication of deficiencies in internal controls. Now, we all know that there's a new auditing standards on communication of deficiencies in internal controls and audit committees and audit. Now, these are some of the areas where in the today's context, many people feel, important, right? Audit committee, we all talk about audit committees, their responsibilities and their, the duties towards the business organizations and, the internal controls and the external audit and internal audit, all that. So therefore, you all generally have to have an understanding on what is an audit committee, who appoint, what is the composition, what are the duties and responsibilities, especially in respect of internal controls and the audit of financial statements. And then the provisions of these new standards on the communication of deficiencies in internal controls. Now, so while the audit is conducted, so auditor might come across many instances where the proper internal controls are not in place. There are, for example, certain design weaknesses and for example, the implementation weaknesses of the internal controls. So the auditor might communicate those to those, the charge with governance. So therefore, what are the auditor's duties and responsibilities, and how is basically discharging those duties and responsibilities basically are matters of concern. And then if you take the quality control. Now quality control, so there again is new topic for us in Sri Lanka, and the institute has already initiated the quality control work of the basically practicing firms. So therefore, in today's context, what are the elements of the quality control systems? What are the elements of the quality control systems? And the engagement quality control review for listed and high risk entities. Now that is what the institute will be very soon starting. Engagement quality control review of listed and high risk entities. Right? How are we going to do that? So this particular standard, included in the book, right? The auditing standard book. So we'll give you a clear understanding on this particular area if you'll read it properly. And then the acceptance and continuation of clients. The acceptance and continuation of clients is another important area, especially in today's context, right? So when you consider the ethics and the governance and all that, generally. You all should be aware of. So therefore, pay due attention, so even on the quality controls, especially on the engagement quality control reviews, right, and the firm quality controls areas. And then as far as the ethics are concerned, the application of conceptual framework, especially understanding the fundamental ethical principles. And then evaluating threats like self-interest, self-review, familiarity, advocacy, and intimidation. Right? Now, generally, the third question, what I was earlier telling you all, is about the code of ethics, where this particular area, evaluating threats. Right? So mostly, the focus of the question has been, so in this particular area, evaluating threats. So they talk about, self-interest, self-review, familiarity, advocacy, and intimidation. So therefore, just not what I'm telling is, now I mentioned some of these accounting standard, auditing standards, and in some of these the ethics part and all that. Reading and remembering of these ones will not solve the problem. So what matters is, what we need is the knowledge on how to apply these standards in practical context. That is the simple reason why I wanted you all to even sit for or do the previous papers and sit for the coming mock exam. There you all can see whether you all can apply, because what happens is most of the cases, so the students, we have seen or we have heard the students say, okay, I can now remember all accounting standard, I can now remember all auditing standard, etc., etc. So yes, you can remember all that, but the issue is, if you don't know how to apply the particular standard, that knowledge you have gathered is of no use. So therefore, remember, so you all can, so when you all study, you all can work as a group or alone, right? So always focus on how best you can, or when, or how you can apply this particular standard into a practical scenario. It can be an accounting standard, it can be auditing standard, it can be a corporate governance or the ethics, whatever. So because now examination, no need to remember, no, now you all can carry all that, so you can carry a big bag and keep it in your head and go to the examination hall, because, because all are permitted to be taken in now. So therefore, no need to remember as such. What matters is whether you can apply. right? To get that comfort, what you got to do is do the papers as much as possible. Maybe the chartered, maybe the ACCA, or maybe England West Institute papers, right? Maybe the question papers given to you all by your own the lecturers in the whatever the teaching colleges. Like we know that, you know, so a couple of good lecturers are there, you know, there's actually facilitating the students. So therefore, so they might also be giving you all some question papers and the questions and all that, right? Don't wait till he discuss the, you know, the answer in the classroom. So that, you know, so then you all will listen and, you know, write it down in the examination. Before the examination, what most of us do is we compare this and that and see whether he has done the answer correct, right? That is what most of the time we do. So that is one of the reason why the fail rate is high, because, you know, you're auditing the answer. So you're auditing, you know, you are auditing the auditing answer, right? So not, you know, you are writing, you are trying to, you know, write a good answer for the auditing question being asked, right? So therefore that won't work. So therefore in all these circumstances, because now I've done this particular document based on my analysis of the last few exam papers, last few question papers, and then thinking, you know, what is happening in the current context. And the financial reporting issues, especially the accountants and the accounting community have been experienced. Based on this only I compiled this particular document. So therefore, so I've been basically suggesting, because, you know, generally the examiners must also be thinking, and, you know, they're also reading the newspaper, they're also, you know, the experience in the difficulties the accounting or the accountants community is experiencing. They're also well aware of all that. So therefore the possibility of them testing current topic, the current topics are fairly high. That is the simple reason why he tested the students on first time adoption standard last examination. Because that was a sort of a, you know, the common issue all the accountants have been experiencing last year, 31st March 2013, compiling the 31st March 2013 financial statement. All accountants were going here and there. Nobody knew how to, I mean, most of the people were basically not aware of how to come up with the right sort of set of financial statements. And then, I mean, Institute also facilitated quite a lot. And then most of the practicing firms also facilitated and helped all these accountants quite a lot. So therefore, that was sort of an issue most of the accountants and, you know, the accountants community had. So therefore he tested. That is a very good indication of testing though. That is why I said that, okay, so be aware of what happened to Ratupaswala, what happened to Fonterra. Right? So what is happening in the today's context, for example, you have in the Chogam, and what happened to the rupee depreciation and the interest rates coming up, interest rates coming down, right? Interest is going down. For example, interest rates, you know, 20 or 15, 18 come down to 10, 12%. Deposit rates coming down. Those will have a major impact on some of the business. So exchange rates, you know, they're going up and coming down. They all will have a impact on the business organizations. Therefore, they all probably can be considered as a, you know, the risk. And then the valuation problem. Now valuation, you all may also have experience now with the valuation, because now the first time adoption standard talks about the deemed cost. How to decide the deemed cost, right? How to adjust it in the financial statement. So therefore the fair value, you know, of some of the property, plant and equipment or whatever it is, or the financial instruments have been the topic which was heavily discussed at length in many forums. So therefore is a very important concern of the examiner. So therefore I'll be telling, you know, based on my experience of, you know, of all that to you all. So therefore, so in your context, no need to sort of remember all that, but see the application of, you know, all these, the provisions. And then threats to auditors' independence. There again under ethics, threats to independence, the auditor's independence. For example, relationship that could impair the independence. Fee, I mean the relationship that could impair the auditor's independence. The fee and other type of remunerations and the provisions of non-assurance services. There again, auditor provides certain non-assurance services. You know, what are the circumstances where he could provide non-assurance services? What non-assurance services probably could result in impairment of the independence? So basically, so you all need to be aware of. And then, as far as the reporting is concerned in general, right? So different services auditor can undertake based on the assurance framework, like the audit, special purpose audit, reviews and assurance engagements. Generally, that was the last few examination. That was the last question was from this particular area. So what are the circumstances where these reports could be given? Say the application of related services and the understating fair presentation framework and compliance. So they all are coming under one particular framework, so which I earlier also explained. So then application of assurance engagement, under that one say the assurance on prospective financial information, application of review engagement, application of related services, report on summarized financial statements. So therefore these are some other areas I felt that is really important. And then earlier also I highlighted that impact of other information on audit reports. Impact of other information on audit reports. What impact other information contained in the auditor's the set of annual report or whatever have on the auditor's report. So basically, these are the areas based on my review of the last examinations and other contexts. I felt that I should take you all through. So which I felt is really important. And in addition to that, one other this thing I thought of basically reminding you all. Now we have all these clarified auditing standards are in place now. So you all may be studying auditing standards, all these auditing standards. Since now, so this particular paper is conducted on open book system. So you all need not remember all that. And so the issue is, some of you all might take these books to the examination hall, right? So, but if you all want to use these the books in the event, assume that you all wanted to use this whatever these books in the examination hall, you all should have studied those books before, right? But for example, you all take brand new books to the examination hall, right? And then if you all want to, for example, see a particular provision, then you have to go refer to the index and then refer to the relevant, identify the relevant page and go to the relevant page and then identify the relevant section and read that particular section. To do that, right, probably it will take about another 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? So therefore remember, now take, probably you all may have already purchased book, or you all may have already collected book from your own colleagues and friends who have already gone through the examination and all that. So therefore ensure that you all read these books, you all study these books, right? So you all study the accounting standard book, study the auditing standard. When you all study, you all do your own highlighting, and highlighting is permitted. And I think they have given, you all have issued the instructions on the open book system. Highlighting is permitted, or the small short notes type of explanatory note is, I think, is also permitted, right? So is also permitted. So therefore, if you all read, tagging is also permitted. So therefore, if you all have studied all important standards, if you all done the highlighting, if you all done the tagging, right? So then in the examination, if you all want to quickly refer to an accounting standard, you all can quickly do it. And it's not something new. So you all know, okay, the accounting standard of borrowing cost is in page number 625, because you have put a tag and quickly turn to that one, and then the capitalization of borrowing cost or whatever. So the section 3. So likewise, you can you can effectively use your time. Otherwise, what happens is to turn the pages and identify the location, read and understand. Because there only you are going to use the book, no. So therefore, understand the book and apply that in the particular context takes quite a lot of time of yours. That is one of the common issue I think some of these students have been experiencing, where they feel that, okay, when you are permitted to take the books, right, you need not study as such, because in the examination, take the paper, right, and the turn to the pages and write the answer. That is not the case. And the examiner will not ask that type of question. Then you all need not write the answers also. If the examiner is asking that type of question, you can say that, examiner, please refer question number 1, part A. Please refer page number 255 of the auditing standard book. Answer. Right? The examiner won't ask that type of question. Right? Examiner will be testing you all on the application of the accounting standard and application of the auditing standard. So therefore, you do study. that will really facilitate you all to use that particular book in the examination quite fast. So you all can make use of that particular, the facility institute has offered to you all. Otherwise, what happens is, so you all during the 2 hours, because I can remember some of the invigilators were telling that, some of the students, so couple of, out of the 3 hours, almost 1 hour to 1.5 hours, they are turning the pages of the, whatever the books, accounting standard book to auditing standard book, auditing to code of ethics, again come back to the accounting standard book. So then you won't have, right, any time, right, to answer the questions. One other thing, so with this open book examination, the system, one of the issue I think the students have been telling us is, okay, so you'll have to be mindful on the marks allocated for some of the questions as well. For example, I say the code of ethics, the number of marks allocated 10. If that is the case, maximum you can take only about, for example, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But so when you have the, the code of ethics book in your hand, so if you know the answer for that particular question well, you know the question, you know the answer, you have the booklet, probably you will spend 1 hour in compiling the answer for that particular question. Because you know that you know the answer. You have the book, you can compile 100% correct answer. But the issue is you might answer, right, 3 questions of that particular nature, where I will be getting 30 marks. Right? For example, if 10 marks, 10 marks, 10 marks, 3 questions, right, you know exactly well, you can use the standard book also in compiling the answer. And then you all will do that, because without considering the number of marks allocated and the time you all could use that. So since you all know that particular topic and the answer for that particular question, right, don't waste your time. So then your possibility of getting through the particular examination will have the impact. I mean, so if you all don't consider that one. So therefore, this is basically what so we felt is important. So your areas you all should be handling, or you all should study in answering the auditing paper. Right. So the document was basically done based on, as I was repeatedly telling, based on my experience in the sense by going through the last 3-4 examinations, and my experience in all other the affairs at the institute, and the accountants community have been experiencing and all that. So therefore now, so if you all need, or if you all have any concerns, or if you all need any clarifications, or if you all need any explanations, now I think so this is the right time for us to discuss. Probably you all might be having certain questions, or you all might need certain clarifications and all that as well. But we'll try our level best, as Mr. Jagatpera said, to clarify all that and see whether we can help you all. It's a cultural issue, because in the Sri Lanka, right, so we never ask questions from the lecturer. So therefore, lecturing in Sri Lankan context, or whatever been, working as a facilitator in the Sri Lankan context is not challenging at all. So even if I come here and say 1 + 1 = 50, right, just say that, keep quiet, and So, but so once I go out, so they might say he's mad, and this and that. Right, so but in the classroom, the lecturer generally is not challenged, right? Or, I mean, challenge in the sense, the students don't get the maximum use of the whatever whoever the resource person available in the particular lecture room is fairly remote. I don't know, so that is what I have observed based on my experience.
If you have adequate time, please make use of that.
It's not, what I was told is, it's not that we are going to do a separate the lecture on auditing, because you all may be going on auditing lectures, and you all may be attending, auditing lectures and sessions and all that, you know. So the objective of this one is to give you all sort of to give you all sort of an idea, right, as to the areas of concern or the areas of focus in your examination. Because some of the comments we have been getting from the marking examiners, just I explain you all, for example, you know, so when you all compile the answer, you all write very general answer. It's not a specific answer. If you all write a general answer, okay, for example, check the compliance with the accounting standards, you check the compliance with the auditing standards. I mean, you know, that is not an appropriate answer. That might not be a proper answer where the examiner can offer you the marks. Therefore, you know, so those are some of the feedback we have been getting from the marking examiner. That is why we thought of, okay, so tell you all, right? One is the common issues we have seen. I mean, the institute has seen. And the second one, based on our experience, what are the areas you all should be focusing on during this year examination? Third one is, so but you know, the sort of telling you all what steps you all should be taking to get through the examination this time. I was telling that, okay, do the past papers or the mock papers as much as possible. May not be once, maybe same paper twice, maybe the same paper thrice. Right, for example, so we have done with, you know, some of the students where, you know, so we said that, okay, do it once. You know, when the particular student did it first time, so the marks 30. Second time, so wanted the same student to do it, then second time 70. Third time 90. Fourth time there again 95. Likewise, you know, the same paper, so within a, you know, the once a week, like this week you do it, next week you do it, and over a period of a month, same paper is being answered 4 times, right? And then you know that within the time frame, so you can answer that particular paper. One, timing. Other one is, you know, basically the difficulties you will be experiencing, so while you answer in the particular paper, right? Especially, so what auditing standard to look, right? What accounting standard to review in answer in the paper. So type of experience is really required. So therefore, answering one time might not be sufficient, because if you all answer, you know, to a very great extent, you all might not be able to get 100 or 90. So even if, for example, you go home and do the immediate past paper 2013, say the June paper, go and do it today. So within take 3 hours or take 4 hours and do it and see whether you all can take, for example, 70 marks or the 50 marks. Just see, right? So then you all can get an assurance on your this assurance, subject is also assurance now, right? Get an assurance, the status quo, right? Your position. So they are prepared, only 1 month and another 15 days for the examination, right? So you all can assess whether you are, you know, sufficiently prepared for your examination now. So if that is the case, I mean, so then just to brush off the knowledge during the remaining 1.5 months. But if you take, for example, 20 marks or the 30 marks, you are nowhere. Because, you know, so if you go home and do it now under normal conditions and take 30 marks in the examination, probably you all might get on 15 marks, right? So therefore, doing that over and over again, right, until you get a good comfort. For example, I'm telling you also, if you can do the last, say, at least last 4 to 5 papers, right, to the extent of taking 90 marks within 3 hours, I think that you all are there. But I think, you know, so I have seen that, you know, the certain people practicing, but unfortunately, so most of the cases our students are not answering, they are auditing the answers. So that is one of the reasons why, one of the reasons why they fail, because they get that, you know, the writing and experiencing difficulties only in the examination. So therefore, so please, you know, so do that, because so that is a common complaint, common issue we all have experienced, not only for this particular paper, even for the other papers. Because you all might say that, okay, so now we are not, I mean, in my classes only 70% is covered, 80% is covered, or 60% is covered, we don't have time, or the firm has not given the study leave. There are 1,000 reasons for you all to say you all can't do that. As long as you all can't do that, your possibility of getting through your examination is also, to a certain extent, to a very great extent, I would say, you know, will be affected. due to that particular reason. Therefore, find your time, right? Find your time and so do it, right? And one other, this thing what I was telling, the first question, always what I was earlier once again telling, so about 8 to 10 accounting standards have been tested. So therefore, now you also decide what are the accounting standards of current important, right? So now take the last year paper and go through the paper and take the, I think you all can take the buy or is it available in the web, the answer, official answer of the final paper available in the web. Available in the web. You all, so now can take and see how many accounting standards were tested, how the examiner has answered the particular area or the particular issue, right? So then in the previous paper, I mean the 2012 December paper, take how many accounting standards were tested, how the examiner has answered the particular issue. There again, the examiner has answered, the basically referring it with the, the particular accounting standard, and then the financial statement assertion, and then the risk and the audit procedure. That is generally the format used. We also have seen. So therefore, identify what are the accounting standards really important in the today's or the current context. So I would say, for example, financial instrument case 39 recognition and measurement, right? And the leasing standard, revenue recognition standard, and some of these IFRICs, right? And PPE standard, right? So the PPE standard, for example, deferred tax standard and share-based payment standard, So these are some of the accounting standards. And the intangible impairment, one other thing is very important standard is impairment because of the impairment of loans and receivables. Because now, those days, we are making simply provisions for, the bad debts and the loans and receivables, and no longer we talk about the provisions. You all know, most of you are working in the audit firms, right? And if you're not working in the audit firms, you all know. So we have to test the receivables for impairment, loans for impairment. How do we do it, right? So therefore, so the impairment standard connected with the financial instrument standard, right? So therefore, the application of all that requires really, attention, real attention. Again, I have been summarizing what I have been telling, right? See, finally, I was telling that, okay, the audit conclusions. Audit conclusions, they are again make a special note, is important, right? Auditor's report, comparatives, other informations and documents contained in the audited financial statement, and the going concern, when there's a going concern issue of that particular nature, how to handle it, right? And the compliance with the laws and regulations, and the auditing of fair value measurements, having auditors own expert and the management's experts, right? So those are the areas of special concern, right? Not that you all should study each and every auditing standard and remember each and everything, right? So try to understand, so when it comes to auditing, okay, planning, right, execution, I mean the collecting audit evidence and the reporting. Those are the 4 main areas. Now you have to plan your audit correct, and you have to execute it correct. You have to collect the appropriate audit evidence, and then finally you have to reach the right conclusions. Therefore I said that okay, conclusion is very important. How do you reach the right conclusions based on the audit evidence you have collected, right? So in that context only I said that okay, the auditor's report and the comparatives are the information, and then the impact of other information on audit report and all that are important. Okay, that's it, from my point of view. So if you all have any other concerns, I think I repeatedly told most of these areas again and again. Yeah. What do you mean? Use the table form? So if you use the table form, you ask whether it's all right. Yeah, I mean there's no harm. I mean probably the examiner may have, the institute may have published it in that particular form so that the student can easily see it and understand it properly. So in the examinations, whether you write it in whether you write the table format or not is not a concern. I mean, so anyway the marking examiners will mark all that. But if you present it in a table form, the marking examiner will find it easy to the locate it and mark it and all that. So therefore, it's not necessarily you have to use the table format. Even if you answer it in a different form, you will be getting the marks. But if you do it, examiner will find it quite easy to locate and identify the rationale, etc., etc. We have put forward and the further marks. That is one of the marking examiner will find it easy. I'll put it in that way. Right? Not that it is compulsory, because I think you are referring to the question number 1, right? The question number 1, the first one is the risk and whatever the area risk and the audit procedures. When you put it in that particular format, you find it easy to relate, understand, and offer the marks. So therefore, if the type of question being asked is of the same type, probably you can use the same format. That will facilitate you as well as the examiner. When you write the answers also, you also can see whether you have completed everything, right? Whether everything is in order and all that. But not that the examiner will penalize you for not doing it that particular format. No, that will not happen. Right? Whether you write it in other form, examiner will mark that one. Okay, then if you're,
Yeah, when we are giving the answer,
yeah.
are we supposed to give the reference to the sections and all?
Not required, get it's like this, if you have so for example, say that LKS say 16 requires, right, or the LKS 39 requires that the financial assets, right, financial assets at financial assets at fair value through P&L need to be measured at at initial measurement fair value. For example, if you write that particular sentence, what I'm asking is whether the section of the particular standard need to be given. No, not necessary. What you say is okay. The LKS 39 requires financial asset at fair value through P&L need to be measured at fair value at the initial recognition. That is what the standards say. For example, now what you are going to do is you are going to justify your answer referring to this particular provision. That if you write the extract, whatever the provision from the standard, no need to give the reference as to whether that is say the section 11 or so the paragraph 10 or whatever it is. Just say that the financial response standard requires so this to be done in this particular form. But in this particular scenario, they have recorded it at cost. So therefore, it's not in compliance. For example, right, with the standard, the resulting impact is this, is material, this and that. So you can conclude. The sections need not be given as such.
There is a question regarding a SICO index, but we have created numbers or everything.
Yeah.
But we know what the content included in the SICO index.
Yeah.
So saying only the circumstances is okay, or the conclusion part of the SIC is okay, or we have to give the number.
Bizarre, I don't think that is required. No, so do they need to give specific reference to the SIC or the IFRIC number in compiling the answer? No, for example, if they have drawn something, right, to compile the answer, if they have taken some point from a IFRIC, right, so if they say that, okay, the IFRIC requires, this, right, then is it necessary to state the specific IFRIC number, the SIC number in the answer? Yeah, what he says is okay, he will put out the facts, right? But the question is whether the number is required. I also don't think,
Decommissioning cost, the tax needs to be there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the number.
Yeah, number, yeah, facts. What matters is the facts. No, so if you can remember the facts, right? But anyway, so you can, if necessary, you can take the book also. That also, no? Can take that book. Efrix, huh? Yeah. Yeah, but the issue is whether you can, whether during that 3 hours of time, whether you can, turn all that, and whether the fact that you need another maybe assistance to take to the examination, the whole to carry the bags, because the accounting standard book like this, 2 IFRIX books like this, auditing standard like this, and your all other equipments, calculators, and all. But what she says is okay. The content matters, right? Not the number. You come up with the right context, that's all right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So you don't know
Yeah.
number of cases you are going to test.
Not I'm going. Yeah.
That's the case actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number of cell cases you are normally testing.
Mm.
I am not suggesting to reduce the cases, your number of cases. You please don't think like that. But that is the practical issue I think.
Yeah, the issue is this, right? That is what I've been repeatedly suggesting you to practice, right? You can get away with this particular issue provided you practice more. Because when you practice, for example, answering 5-6 papers, then for example, then you will, learn. That's why I said that even the same paper, so if you can do it at least twice or thrice. For example, I myself have done it, right? When I was studying the same paper, I've done at least 3 times, right? In a manner where, because those I wanted to take 100 out of 100, right? For example, first time when I do it, I was nowhere, like 20, 30. Second time, what I do, okay, so first time when I do mark, identify, okay, 20 marks. Then I identify, okay, what are the areas I am weak. And then before I do the paper second time, what I do is I study the other area that require to, to take 100 marks. And then after a week or so, then I do the paper again. And then the checking, then okay, 70 marks. And then identify there again what are the deficiencies of mine. So then there again the study balance part of it. It will be for the third time when I do it, so you are there. And then so you won't fail your examinations, right? So for practice, then you will be able to prioritize, because so you have to identify out of the, for example, now I think you are given 15 minutes reading time, 15 minutes reading time is there. One other thing actually I forgot to tell you all. Now this 15 minutes reading time is there for you all to take the maximum benefit, right, of reading and understanding the question. Now take that benefit. Whatever all these the invigilators were telling us is, the students come sharp at 9 o'clock and sit. During that 15 minutes also they, so somehow, go and read something and try to memorize. So, try to do something. Right? That won't work. Last 15 minutes, I mean, so it won't make any difference, right? So therefore, what you all should be doing is, be there and be in your seat by 8:45 and read the paper and try to understand the questions, right? So that, that 15 minutes is more than enough for you all to read the entire paper, right? And understand the question. At least, twice you all can read the paper. Right? So especially, right, the first question, for example, auditing, the first question I think carries about 30 to 35 marks, right? So you all can read this particular question twice. And then as she said, okay, so you can note down if the question is on identify the risk areas or whatever it is, note down the risk areas. So when you read the question the second time, you can note down the risk area then and there. And then keep the paper. When you start the answering, okay, so you have a list of risk areas you have already identified. Then you use your judgment. like evaluating an internal control system. Like you have listed down the areas of the issues you have identified in the particular scenario. Now you prioritize based on the importance, right? So which issue will have a significant impact over the others, right? So on that particular mechanism, you the prioritize. So based on the risk of material misstatement, which particular issue will result in greater the impact of the financial statement, or material misstatement over and above the factors you have identified. Therefore, on that particular basis, the prioritize your one. So therefore, what matters is if you do at least 2 or 3, I think so you can sort it out. You can sort out this problem, and then the examination ensure that you will go and read during this particular 15 minutes to ensure that you have a better understanding. Not that you should be reading, trying to study or something, so outside the examination hall during that particular 15 minutes also. Yeah. Yeah, if you feel that whatever that practical issues can be relate to the question being asked, I mean there's no issue in it. No, Nadishan? No, what she was asking is whether she can take the examiner has given some information in the paper, so whether she can take some information from the outside which is relevant for the question being asked, and the right on that one. For example, examiner has given a scenario, right, on say the export, say assume that export company, and the export this and that and all that, whether for example now the external market, she has seen that now the rupee has been depreciating. If the rupee is depreciating, so that will have an impact on the rupee value of the proceeds the organization is getting. As a result, the organization might be having some impact. Type of question you ask, whether you can consider the information which is not given in the scenario but relevant for the question being asked.
It will be dependent on the question being asked, because if the question is purely based on scenario given, and sometimes the economic information also there in the scenario, we cannot pull the information from.
Yeah, suggesting the answer based on the information given. That is the conclusion I have drawn, so based on the yeah. Yeah. No, now we don't have abacus. Now institute has published official answer for the whatever the examination what we had during last examination. Therefore, now that is the official answer of the institute. But abacus, I think, is not done now. It's the official answer of the institute. I mean, not the abacus. I mean, the abacus. I think we have we don't publish abacus as such now, right? So it's the official. I mean, so we have now official. We have institute has published the official answer. Therefore, you can get the official answer and see. Yeah. Nadisha, how many is there at the moment? Only 2. Yeah, there's a small issue like this, so this was initiated recently, right? They were going back and doing it for the last examination, probably might not be possible. So, no, I mean, not that I mean, even the abacus, I don't think that is even though abacus is not the official answer for the papers, but I think so you all can use the abacus also to the great extent in checking whatever the answers you all have written. Because what happens is I think especially if the particular request was there sometime early, we could have considered, but now we have only another 6 weeks for the examination, right? So getting type of answer done for this thing or whatever, I don't know is possible there again. So therefore, for the time being, So you can use those two, and then even the previous ones we have abacus right in the library. So you all can use abacus for the previous. Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. Yeah. No, if you take the auditing paper, right, compare the auditing paper prior to the open book and after the open book, has there been a significant change? No, right? Just take the auditing paper prior and after, there has been no change. So the examiner, no, as long as the issue is especially the auditing paper, even the FRF paper, the application of the standard will be tested, right? So therefore, not that the marking examiners are expecting descriptive answers as such, unless otherwise the examiner is really requiring that, So not that is happening, right? For example, those days examiner was expecting, the 3-line answer. Now examiner expecting 10-20 line, the answer, no. So because the simple reason why the institute took that particular decision to permit you all to take the books, right? Because now the number of standards have been increasing. So the examiner can't test each and every standard in the examination, right? So neither, so we can expect, therefore the examiner will take, for example, out of 40, the examiner will test, the 3 standard. But when you go for the examination, you have to study all 40 standards. But we can't expect, institute can't expect you to remember all the 40 standards, no. Because then we will, then if that is the case, most of the cases, we may have tested only your memory. Right? So whether you can remember the particular standard, but now what we do is, okay, so you all can take the books. So we are not worried about it. But we will not be testing the direct question from the books, but we will be testing application. For example, being an accountant or a financial professional, so we should know how to apply the accounting standard. We should know how to apply the auditing standard. We should know how to apply the tax law. Even if I remember all that, if I don't know how to apply, so that knowledge is of no use. So therefore now the focus is on testing application of the accounting standards, application of the auditing standards. Not that because of the open book examination, examiners are expecting very lengthy, detailed, comprehensive answer. So most of the cases we can, we have heard that invigilators are saying, it's about now, even though the student felt that, this is a fantastic opportunity, we don't need to study and all that, only about, very negligible number of the students are using the standards books in the examination. That is the feedback we have got, right? So generally about it says 5 to 10%. That was, I can remember, sometime back examiner was telling that only about 5 to 10% of the people are using. Because within that 3 hours for you to use the refer to book and the read and understand and apply that unless otherwise you have studied that particular standard in very detail, you have done a lot of homework on that one, it's not that easy, it's challenging. Manage your time. So therefore not that so because of the open book examination we are expecting detailed, comprehensive answers and all that. No, you can continue with the same answering pattern you have been using and come up with the right answer. Okay, then if you all don't have further questions, so we'll stop the session, and once the session is over, if you all have further questions, you all can come and talk to us, and then wish you all the best and wish that you all of you will get through the examination. Thank you.